Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And today we have an amazing episode lined up for you. If you can see over here in the corner, we have Mr. Underhill, or Ryan from the community, with us. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
No problem. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing great.
And I'm always good, just taking it easy.
Still along for the ride. I'm glad to hear that.
Always.
Yeah. So Ryan, thanks for taking some time out of your day, which normally Grant and I record in the evening, but actually this is your day because I think you're recording from Australia. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what happens in Australia there?
What happens in Australia?
Does it stay in Australia? Yeah.
Yeah, I see. First rule of Australia is you never talk about Australia.
Okay, right.
Classic reference.
Right. I feel like we should make a movie surrounding that. No. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the listeners here. Some of us, I can't imagine that people don't know who Mr. Underhill is, but just in case our listeners or viewers don't know who Mr. Underhill is, what do you do?
I play Lord of the Rings, the card game. And I've got a YouTube channel about it. So that's probably where most people may have heard of me, I guess. So right now I am doing a Thematic Saga 2-player campaign with Joseph, Gamer Joe, who I'm sure people might know from one of your previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I also help run the Facebook group, although as I said to you guys just now, I mainly help deny people access, and Joseph really does all the work.
So you're just along. You're just along for the ride, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just along for the ride. I lock some threads sometimes when things get a bit sketchy, and that's about it.
I got you.
Yeah, card review videos is another thing that we put a lot of time into. I think people enjoy those. They get more views than most of the games that we play, which is kind of nice, I guess. And yeah, I guess some other things I've done is scan cards for Hall of Bayern to help out with that side of things. Give nightmare run-throughs for people. Help people build decks. Tweak their decks sometimes.
I was going to say that I think before we started this interview or before we started this episode, I said that I just feel like I knew Mr. Underhill from all over the place. And then as I thought about it, it's really just you have a pretty vibrant and active YouTube channel that you just keep opening stuff up. Plus, and I didn't say this before the episode, was that I mean you're on Twitter and you're posting stuff on Twitter a lot.
Sometimes. Probably less lately. I don't know why that is, just been busy. But certainly sometimes if I see an interesting photo of something, like I remember posting this photo where I was playing a Dale deck and I got this hand of, I think it was 2 Gandalf and 3 Sneak Attack. And I got so many people replying about this hand. It's like the ultimate starting hand, I guess.
Right.
And the question was, should I keep it or mulligan?
I was going to say,
would you keep that or mulligan?
Well, it depends on which quest I'm playing. But sometimes having 3 sneak attacks and 2 Gandalfs, I don't know,
Yeah, it might not be what you need.
Yeah, it may not be what you need in order to clear the quest or do anything at the beginning of a quest. And then you're kind of locked into having all these but I guess you don't need to use a sneak attack to bring out Gandalf. That's the other thing that, sneak attack is good for other cards.
I kept it. It was too good not to.
Why don't you explain real quickly to the people who want to catch up with you just what you're doing with Joseph? You did talk about it briefly and you just mentioned it now, but give us a little bit of an idea of what you're doing with the playthrough and the fellowship event in the Saga campaign.
So we're trying to do the Lord of the Rings saga, so not including the Hobbit, from beginning to end, 2 players. And we're making a video of each quest. So far, we're at the Ring Goes South. So, what's that? Number 6, if you include the PODs, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's right. And so we're trying to do it thematically, mostly in terms of hero selections. So characters who are actually around at that point of the book that the quest focuses on. Sometimes that's easy. So for something like The Ring Goes South, you have quite a lot of people to pick from because there are the 9 walkers and kind of supporting characters, so like Elrond and Arwen, who were in Rivendell at the time.
Right.
For something like Shadow of the Past, it's a bit more difficult, or Fog on the Barrow-Downs as well. And I'm thinking ahead, Passage of the Marshes. That part of the book is really just Sam Gamgee, Frodo, and Gollum.
Right.
I think.
No,
So
you're exactly right.
yeah, we do need to kind of stretch things sometimes, but mostly so far we've done okay, I think. I'm not a huge book nerd in terms of the lore. I like the universe, if you like, the Middle-earth kind of setting, but I don't actually enjoy reading the books. I have tried, whereas Joseph is very familiar with the books. So it's nice for me to learn more about the lore as well, from my perspective.
Yeah,
I like deck building too, so it's kind of really challenging for me to come up with these decks that can be at both normal and nightmare as well.
Right. Well, how did you get into the game? Like, how if you're not necessarily?
Well, I used to play Game of Thrones LCG, the first one. So I used to go to tournaments and things for that, and then one day we picked up the Lord of the Rings core set and had a go at it, and I think it basically sat on the shelf for about a year or so. And then I moved house. I moved from the north of England back down to the south, which will probably bring a scowl from Grant there. I used to live up by Grant. Yeah. I used to live by Grant, Dave, as it goes.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, we were very, very close, it turns out.
I was going to say, your accent is not so Geordie as his.
No, I didn't pick that up.
Okay. I'll forgive you. It'll be fine.
I'm not sure Grant will.
Yeah. That's okay.
I'll just put that in my little pot of stew on.
Yeah.
Go on then. Yeah, what happened then? So I had a couple of adventure packs in, and I just started picking it up. One of my friends said he wanted to get into it. Somebody, a good friend of mine, Mark, we used to play together a lot. And so we got into it, and then I just invested in it heavily. And they rebooted Game of Thrones kind of around the same time that I was getting into Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings is just so much deeper than a new game like that. I really like the fact this game's got a lot of cards. That probably puts some people off, but for me, and that was something I missed about the first version of Game of Thrones, that there were tons of cards by the end of it.
Mr. Underhill, you're here to talk about a specific card, right? And
I am.
Yeah, so why don't you tell our audience which card and introduce the card to our listeners here?
All right, so my card is a hero card, and this is an old card, but I think it's a card that has stood the test of time. It is Aragorn, the hero. Do you want me to read his stats out?
Yep. Which Aragorn?
So he's Lore Aragorn.
Okay.
So otherwise known as Loragorn.
Right.
So he's 12 threat cost, which I'm sure will trigger you there, Dave. 12. That's double digits, not single digits.
I know.
2 willpower, 3 attack, 2 defense, 5 health. And he is a Dunedain and a ranger. He has the Sentinel keyword, and he's got this amazing action ability. Refresh action, reduce your threat to your starting threat level, limit once per game. So I look at this guy as sort of the Strider edition of Aragorn, because you guys have reviewed the core set Aragorn before, haven't you?
Yes, we did Korgorn.
I'd say Korgorn is probably my third favorite Aragorn.
What are the first two?
So this one's probably my favorite, and then the second one would be Tactics. I'm not including the Fellowship ones.
Okay, I was going to say the Fellowship ones are in there, but they're nichey and
yeah, they're cool.
They are cool.
They have their role, but Tactics, I really, really like the Tactics one. He's one of the best defensive heroes in the game, I would say. But I just love this lore version of Aragorn.
So Ryan,
yes,
give us your initial thoughts on this. You started talking about it being the Strider Aragorn. So what do you got?
From the thematic kind of perspective, I think this Aragorn represents the moment of the book where the hobbits encounter him in the Prancing Pony. I find the art really evocative. You've got that Dunedain pipe there. You've got the mug with the horses on it, or ponies, I guess they might be. You've got the cloak. He's got his hood up. You don't know who he is. He doesn't have the noble trait either on this card, which kind of speaks to the fact that it's not clear that he's a noble.
Right.
You know, it's not clear who this person is, which I really like. So So that's one. Tony Foti is the artist, so he did a great job here, I think, with this art. And I've just used him in the deck I played for A Knife in the Dark, and he's amazing in that quest because you've got Bill Fernie who ramps your threat the whole game, and you need to get him out of the staging area. So you can either engage him with some tricks, or you can just let your threat go up and up and up, engage him, kill him, and then reset back down with Aragorn, which is exactly what we did in the game we played. So just from that perspective, I really like him. And he's not a hero that I used when I was new either, which I think is interesting. He's somebody who I think you need to play him a bit to kind of figure out how to use him.
Well, he came out really early on, right? He came out with Watcher in the Water, so like
he's like 5 or 6 years old, this card.
Yeah, and I mean those initial adventure packs seem to try to mimic kind of some of the Hobbit scenario stuff and the kind of the fun battles that you saw in the campaign too. Like Watcher in the Water was clearly a call out to when they enter the mines of Moria and the Guardian there. So I don't know what that has anything to do with Loragorn, but I know that he's been around for forever. Like he's
Well, that's part of the reason I picked him, I think, is I think he stood the test of time really well. We talked about core Aragorn there. I think this version of Aragorn, there's always cards that come out that always make me think about using this guy again, especially the last cycle. There are a few cards in that cycle, like the Dunedain Pipe, for example. That just felt like Aragorn's pipe to me because it's a lore attachment. And so I feel like there's always a trickle of things that make you go, oh, that'd be cool to play with this version of Aragorn, whereas the core version, I don't get the same feeling. And if you look back at old videos on YouTube as well, he saw play when he came out. Like I think the old COTR recorders used to use him with Frodo, and maybe Brandon used to play him with Boromir. I don't quite remember, but he is really good with Tactics Boromir. That's the other thing. Right. They're a great pair together. If anybody ever gets stuck on Peril in Pelargir, I recommend this guy, Aragorn, Boromir, and Glorfindel, and you will destroy that quest.
Well, you destroy a lot of fighting quests with those guys.
Yeah, they start with 9.
Right. Phew. Grant, what do you think, Grant? You've been shockingly quiet over there. So I want to. No. So Grant, what do you think about Loragorn here?
Loragorn, as I said to you off screen, David, is probably my favorite of all the Aragorns.
Yeah.
When I first started playing, he'd not long been out or was due to be released, and I pretty much fell in love with the whole idea of being able to use him, his ability to drop your threat straight down back to your starting level when you are like verging on the end of defeat if you end up taking so many threat raises from, well, any of the treacheries that came out from Khazad-dûm, because some had Surge and Doom 2 or what have you, and it was just a nightmare. And having that panic button just to drop your threat right back down is very nice. I used to pair him with Frodo so that I could take undefended attacks and just drop me threat back down once it was at a relatively high threat. But it's not limited per group, it's per player, per game. So you can do it if you had something like Desperate Alliance, which you can pass them round. Each player then gets to basically reset their threat level, which can be a bonus at times. So the artwork is amazing, and yeah. David?
Well, here's the thing, and you know that so Ryan is whenever I start a little hesitantly into my little spiel, it's always going to be not as glowing probably as the other folks. So here's the thing. So first of all, I have to say that or Aragorn, I think any version of Aragorn is amazing. I like him as an overall hero. I'm not a huge fan of the high threat, as Ryan, you rightly pointed out. I like single digit threat, but I will run decks that use Aragorn. I'm trying to kind of tech out a 2-hero deck using Aragorn and Arwen. I'm still using Koragorn rather than Loragorn, but I do like Aragorn because he's so all around. And I think, Ryan, when you and I, when we were in the group chat with Grant and we talked about, hey, this guy, he's got two willpower, three attack, and 2 defense. It makes him all around, and it makes him good for everything. A better attacker than defender to start off with, but but the 5 hit points really help out. He's one of the only characters that can take a full swing from the cave troll, or from the hill troll at the very beginning of the when you're doing Journey down the Anduin, or Journey along the Anduin. That said, I'm not a huge fan of that ability. I feel like that ability should be different. I get the ability, and I think that the ability has uses, but I'm not necessarily a fan of that ability. Let's see if I can kind of verbalize why I'm not a fan of that ability.
You're not a fan of reducing your threat to your starting threat level?
Well, maybe here's one of the things that I that I thought about is that
not a fan of that ability.
Right.
You're not a fan of dropping a threat by 20 points.
Yeah. Probably not.
What not? Not a fan of threat reduction.
Here's the thing is, I think that when I first started playing this guy, and like we said, he came out early on in the adventure packs and the cycles, and so when he came out, I think I misread his ability, and it's a refresh action, but you don't need to exhaust him to use it. You just do it. And so I think I was exhausting him, and I was like, now I lost my hero. But he is Sentinel, but I just think that if I'm going to spend 12 threat cost on a hero, I'm going to want, because I can tech into a deck threat reduction if that's what the quest calls for. I can put into a deck, that thing. I get that the lore, this is a lore threat reduction is big. Kind of like the Woodman's Clearing that just came out. You very rarely get lore threat reduction. But I don't know. I want that ability to be something that boosts other players or helps that. Well, I don't know. I can't right yet figure out what I don't like about it.
Look at it this way: if you're up against a quest where you need threat reduction, you said you can tech your deck to do that, but what Aragorn does is removes the need to include those cards in your deck. So you can include something else now that can get you through the quest faster, whether it be more willpower or more attack power. So he's freeing up card slots in a way. You could think of it that way.
Yeah, like if you're running Spirit.
He's giving you basically, if you start at 30, he's kind of giving you roughly 40 threat points to play with. Because you can go up to 49 or whatever, and then go all the way back down.
Right.
And if you include something like Elrond's Council, just the 3 of, that'll be enough, probably, for that whole quest. Right. There's not many quests where you need loads and loads of threat reduction like that. Maybe Return to Mirkwood comes to mind, or something like one of the saga ones, Passing of the Grey Company. It's got a lot of threat raising. You can't use them in that quest, actually, so that one doesn't even count.
There's one that is it the third one in the I'm currently working my way through the Haradrim cycle, so I was the third one in the Haradrim cycle. I know that I was very close to threading out.
Beneath the Sands?
Not Beneath the Sands. It's the third. Sorry, not the third adventure pack. The third in the.
Oh right, Long Arm of Mordor.
Yeah, the Long Arm of Mordor.
Yeah, that's a funny quest, though.
Yeah, they're all funny solo.
That quest's amazing in multiplayer. That's one of the best multiplayer games I've ever had against that quest. And sometimes I see people hating on that quest, and I think, oh, if you played that 3-player and had a really close game, it'd probably change your mind. It was a really awesome game.
Yeah.
I think though in multiplayer, like you might say he loses value, but that Sentinel, I think, gives him a role. Because in-sphere access to Burn and Brand is just so strong. You could get that out turn 1 on this guy, and he's basically taking an attack for somebody, and they don't need to worry about it. There's plenty of games where you start off with enemies engaged, or some enemy comes out turn 1 and engages the quest in deck. And so Aragorn, having that Sentinel there is just so important for multiplayer.
I guess I do like Aragorn because this version of Aragorn, because you can slot him into any deck. Those niche. I don't know if you saw the Hirluin the Fair episode, but I killed him not because I hated Hirluin the Fair, but because he only fits into one deck archetype, and that's the Outlands. And so
that is a very strong deck, though.
I have since rescinded my waiting for more Outlands because I put together an Outlands deck in the because of Joseph said, Outlands is really. So I don't know. Anyways, I put together an Outlands deck and I did pretty well with it. So, but I do like that this version of Aragorn can slot into any place into where you need a lore hero. It's not a specific ability that you need to have. You don't need to have specific cards. If you're looking for access to lore in your deck, this is an option for you in any sort of deck build.
I think he's a hero as well you can look at as a tower hero, potentially.
Oh, yeah.
You can, Grant mentioned running with Frodo. There's like a classic lineup of Frodo, Aragorn, and Glorfindel. And I think that starts at something like 26 starting threat, which is incredibly low.
Right.
Is it? It might even be 24 actually, because Frodo's 7.
Right.
So
it's 5, 7.
Glorfindel's 5. Yeah. So
5. It's 24.
So 24 starting threat with those guys, and you can go back down. And so Frodo gives you that defender as well, because you can eat the threat, with his ability, and then just go back down to 24 whenever you want with Aragorn. And so that deck was like really popular in the second cycle, I think, around that time. And even now, I built one for the Harad cycle, a couple of quests in that cycle, and played those 3, and they're still really good and really strong.
Yeah, and he does stand the test of time, and I think that's what you've said. It's like everybody kind of is looking for a way to reduce threat. It's not like some ability that has been carded out by the card pool or something.
It's gone better. Like, for example, we haven't even gotten into doomed cards yet, but those doomed cards are some of the best cards you can possibly run. Deep Knowledge, especially, is an amazing card. 2 players. The other one that we've, I think there's some people who already knew the value of this card, but Legacy of Numenor is Doomed 4. Right, so that puts a lot of people off. You go, oh, Doomed 4, no thanks. And I used to be like that as well.
Right.
But me and Joseph have been playing that a lot for this campaign. And what that card basically does is skips a turn for the encounter deck, if you think about it. Because you spend 4 threat and you gain a resource on every hero. And normally you'd have to wait around for that, and you'd have to reveal 1 or more encounter cards.
Right.
Whereas you've got an advantage over the encounter deck. And if you have heroes like Aragorn who can take attacks, it doesn't really matter, that 4 threat.
Right.
And there are some quests as well where you just need to go quickly, like Journey in the Dark, Uruk Hai, Flight to the Ford, all of these quests. Threat is not really that important. You don't need to build for it because you want to end the game quickly. You're not talking about a 14-turn game. You're talking about a 6-turn game. Right. And so that Doom 4 is irrelevant, really, especially for Flight to the Ford, because you need to kill those Nazgul. You can't sit there. They're going to engage you. You have to kill them. So you might as well take the Doom 4 and just get loads of resources. And having 2 on the first turn, especially for Trisphere, is so strong. I had a crazy game the other day where I got something like Fellowship of the Ring, Sword That Was Broken, Ally Aragorn, and Gondorian Shield out all on turn 1 on those Fellowship heroes, and I just owned it after that.
Right.
Like that's such a powerful start. So the ability to run those cards and not worry about, if you do ramp your threat, and you can do that quickly with some decks.
I think you're onto something with this the Doom mechanic. Not that there's a bunch of player cards that use the Doom mechanic.
There are 17 player cards with Doomed.
Really?
17.
What am I not thinking? What am I missing?
How many of them are lore cards, though?
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are lore cards. You've got the Mirkwood Pioneer. Or does that just get a bonus? You may give Mirkwood Pioneer.
Oh, that, yeah.
When you play it from your hand, gains response.
Right.
Use a card in a staging area until the end of the round does not contribute its threat. You've got the
Yeah.
What of the Nimrodale.
The what of the Nimrodal?
Which is Doom 3. You've got the Isengard Messenger.
He's not Doom, though. He gets a benefit from Doom triggering.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Grima. I mean, Hero Grima with Aragorn.
Yeah.
You ever played Hero Grima, Dave?
I've never played Hero Grima.
It'll blow your mind once you figure out a decent deck with Grima.
Okay.
Because, again, he's another ramp hero. So he just lets you get out something like Steward of Gondor on turn 1 in a Trisphere deck, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And you can just keep triggering Grima's ability every round and then go back down with Aragorn if you want to. You don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, so
I
you should try Hero Grima.
I can see the cogs turn.
I
see the cogs turn.
I'm trying. They're I don't know, the combos that naturally go along with this thing that I can't think of. I mean,
you mean the threat lowering side of things?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of cards that pair with Aragorn by name. That's the Celebrian Stone and his Mount Rohirrim, but that goes with any version of, so there's.
Well, I think this one, what you're getting at there, I think, is more of a tower Aragorn. Mm-hmm. So the tower deck is where you take one hero and kind of build it up.
Right.
And this guy is legit for doing that as well, because why is that? So I think the core Aragorn is actually quite a decent tower version of Aragorn. Because he starts off as leadership, and so that's the challenge with this one. I think is you want to play all his toys on him. You want to give him Ring of Barahir, Sword That Was Broken, Rohirrim. Is it the mount? So
Rohirrim's
all those things. Yeah, when he ends up Quad Sphere, questing for 10, attacking for 12, and all this crazy stuff.
Right.
It's like that's the dream. You're living the dream. But this guy's viable for that. So if you run this guy with Arwen, the hero, she can give him resources.
Right.
So you can get stuff out faster, and you can play all the Doom stuff.
But I was going to say,
just go back down.
Which of his toys are? Most of his toys are leadership toys, though, right? They're not. The Ring of Barahir is spirit, and the other ones are leadership. So how are you getting access to the leadership sphere with this? Is it the Sword That Was Broken that gives him leadership?
Yeah,
but that's a leadership. That's a leadership attachment. Yeah,
I think that's why it's a little bit easier to do the tower on core Aragorn, because I think I've done that with Galadriel. Mm-hmm. So Galadriel's spirit, she'll give you access to lore through the ring.
Right. But
she can also give Ring of Barahir to Aragorn, and then he gets lore.
Right.
So it is easier to get that stuff, but you can do it with this version. You just run something like Good Harvest.
Right. A tiny
so
Good
if you
Harvest.
Can get the sword out, if you can get the sword out, then he's going to be leadership. Right. And I think the mount is probably the least important. It makes him tactics, though. Right. The other thing we haven't gotten into with Aragorn yet is that he goes in a lot of different deck types. Like we've mentioned, possibly Gondor, Harad, a hero lineup with Frodo and Glorfindel. He can also do Dunedain, which is a whole other archetype, you might say. Mm-hmm. And that could be an enemy engagement type deck. I've seen him, no, that was a tactics version actually. I was going to say I've seen him used in sort of like an aggressive Dunedain deck. But he also sees play with side quests too. You could run him with Thurindir.
Right, because he's so versatile. He's really so versatile. Like he can really do a lot with him. I think the one time that I really used him, I used him in a trap deck. I was using him and Anborn, and then maybe it was
Damrod.
Oh, Damrod, not not Anborn. Anborn
right.
was the I was using the ally version of Anborn. Anyways, whatever. I forget the third one, but I since took it apart. But I mean, that's the he's so versatile in any of those. He can really be slotted where you need that stuff. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Ryan, but
no. That was it basically. I guess the other thing I've learned from the saga, and people were doing this before actually, is you can play 3 hunters, which is awesome. You can play Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli together.
Mm-hmm.
That deck in solo needs a bit of luck to function because it's got a lot of moving parts. Like you need a lot of resources. You need all the toys out to defend properly.
Well, is there anything else that we need to talk about in terms of lore? I can't put into words exactly what I mean about that ability. I don't know what. Maybe it's just not unique enough for me to be on a hero.
What?
Maybe that's what I don't know. Like, I know, like
this ability is not unique. Are you sure?
No, I know. I know. Like, that's the thing. I'm glad you're here to keep me.
It's not on any other card.
I'm getting triggered, Dave.
I know. Yeah. That's my job. Is that I just try to trigger the guests so that they really want to come back and review other cards with us. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say what it is. Maybe I just don't want to come out and just say I'm really not a huge fan of that ability, and I feel like that ability, unless you tech a deck around that specific ability, you're not going to use it in a lot of the quests.
I would say that's what you should be doing. You should be teching your deck around this ability, or at least thinking about it.
Right.
Like Tactics Boromir, this guy's a great buddy for Tactics Boromir in the early card pool.
Do we have anything else about Loragorn here?
Loragorn.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I feel like we have enough stuff to do like 5 episodes here, but yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I mean, it makes.
I mean, there's probably lots of cards we didn't discuss because there's just so many decks that he can go in. I'm trying to think of what I don't like about him. I guess would be an interesting thing to say.
Right. Well, we'll get you back for part 2 for that then, shall we?
Sure. I can't think of anything. So.
Okay.
Okay, so let's ring them then.
You want to ring them?
Yeah, let's.
Go ahead, Grant.
Well, the scenes. It's Ryan's card. I think we should let Ryan start off.
Okay, so Ryan, we have a highly arbitrary yet scientific system here at Card Talk. We have a system where from 1 to 10 rings, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, and 10 is the trash bin. And so, what do you think? Where do you think Lore Aragorn falls on that?
So 1 is the best card in the game.
Right. Well, we have had 2 unanimous 1s right now. So,
have you?
Yes. So we've agreed that Sam Gamgee is a unanimous 1, and we've agreed that Sneak Attack is a unanimous 1. Other heroes, when we had Chad on, Chad said Haldir was a 1, but we didn't agree with him. So Grant liked it more than I did, and then
I give it a 2, and David give it a 5.
So anyways, 1 is the one card to rule them all.
I wouldn't say Aragorn is the one card to rule them all. He's probably the one Aragorn to rule them all. Second only to attack. No.
Right.
But I'm going to go with... I'm thinking of it just in heroes.
Okay.
So if this is a 1 to 10 scale of heroes, because I need to get some cards out of my mind, because there's only one clear one for me. So I'm going to say...
Okay, well, who's your clear 1 hero then?
I'm not sure there are any.
Oh, okay.
I don't think this game's that simple as saying there's the best hero in the game.
Right.
That devalues the game to me. I'm going to get into deep philosophical thoughts about the game here.
Right.
I'm going to give Lord Aragorn a 3.
Okay. Why do you settle on a 3?
I think he does require building around, which is fine. I'm fine with that. But he is also splashable. If you just want some threat reduction, you want a lore hero, you can put him in and not worry too much about what your starting threat is, unless there's an early enemy out there, because he's going to bring you back down anyway, so it gives you some more time in the game. And And I like the fact that he's really good in those types of quests where you need to go down in threat later on, like Dungeons of Kirith Gurat is one where I use him. You'll probably be playing that soon, Dave.
If I can ever
you go
race
up early.
there.
Yeah, you go up early and then you come back down for the second part, and he's amazing for that quest.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he is best when he's supported by other cards like Unexpected Courage, so you can get some value out of those stats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think a 3 is a fair reflection. He's a really good hero. He's super solid. Of course, he does cost a lot, so you might want to think about that if you don't like running high threat cost heroes. It's perfectly fine to run Hobbit decks. I play Hobbits all the time. But there can be no one hero.
Right. What about you, Grant? How do you feel about Lord Aragorn?
I like him, and he was probably the first Aragorn that I made a solid, decent deck with. So sentimentality, I'm giving him a 2.
2?
Yeah.
Wait. I mean, I have good earphones on, and I heard you say a 2. Did you hear that, Mr. Underhill? Was that?
I did hear that, yeah.
Okay.
I guess having 2 people say 3 is boring, so I would stick with the 2. Let's go with the 2. Yes.
Right.
Well, I was debating whether or not to go 2.5 or 2, so it was like, 2.
Well, I guess
Come
that
on,
leaves...
Dave. Give him your 8.
No. This is David. It'll be a 9.
Yeah. So I love Aragorn no matter what. And I think one of the things that the game does well is that it always keeps heroes at the same level. So Aragorn, whether it's leadership, tactics, or lore, is always that 2/3/2 with 12 threat cost and has 5 hit points. And so I think Aragorn in general is a great hero. I love him as a hero. I think his threat cost is high, but I think that that's mitigated because he's so well rounded. So if you can, like you said, Ryan, if you put some readying on him, I think you can use him in multiple phases, and you can take advantage of that pretty easily without putting a lot of other cards on him. This particular thing, you can guess that, I'm not as much of a fan of that ability because I think there's, I don't know, like other ability that can, I don't know, there's something in there that I'm just not, that doesn't settle with me. But I love that he can be versatilely put into other decks. You can tech around him, but you don't need to. He can be your access to lore without having to run all the doomed cards and do all those things. And so because of that, I think that I have to give him a 4.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's where I fall. So we have Mr. Underhill with a 3 and Grant with a 2 and me with a 4. So I think that people should join us next time when we tackle some other card on Card Talk. And Mr. Underhill, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed cardtalk2018.libsyn.org for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.